The stagecoach lurched violently to one side, throwing Olivia Vaughn against the wooden frame hard enough to bruise her shoulder, and she knew with absolute certainty that her decision to come west had been the worst mistake of her 23 years. Outside, the Nebraska Badlands stretched endlessly under an unforgiving July sun in 1883, all red earth and scattered sage, and the driver was shouting something she could not hear over the thundering hooves and creaking wheels. Then came the crack of splintering wood, the sickening moment of weightlessness, and Olivia was tumbling through hot air and dust as the stage rolled behind her. She landed hard on her side, the impact driving the breath from her lungs. Her traveling bag exploded open nearby, scattering notebooks and pencils across the barren ground. The horses screamed and thrashed in their traces. The driver was nowhere to be seen. Olivia pushed herself up on shaking arms, tasting blood where she had bitten her tongue, and watched the overturned stagecoach settle into stillness 20 feet away. For a long moment, there was only the sound of wind and her own ragged breathing. Then she heard the driver groaning from somewhere beyond the wreckage. Olivia staggered to her feet, her green traveling dress torn at the hem and covered in red dust. Her dark hair had come loose from its pins and hung in tangles around her face. She found the driver pinned beneath one of the front wheels, conscious but clearly in pain. "My leg," he gasped. "Broken. You need to get help." Olivia looked around at the vast emptiness surrounding them. Where? Valentine was 20 miles back. "There is a ranch maybe 10 miles northeast, but I do not know if you can find it." He closed his eyes, his weathered face gray with pain. "There is water in the canteen on the coach. Take it. Follow the ridgeline." She wanted to argue, to insist she could not possibly leave him here alone, but they both knew she had no choice. The next stage would not pass for 3 days. Olivia retrieved what she could from her scattered belongings, stuffing notebooks and a change of clothes into a smaller bag she found still intact. The canteen held perhaps 2 quarts of lukewarm water. She tore a strip from her petticoat and fashioned a bonnet to protect her face from the sun. "I will send help," she promised the driver. "If you make it," he said, which was not encouraging. Olivia set off walking northeast, trying to keep the ridgeline in sight as the driver had instructed. She had come to Nebraska from Boston to write a series of articles about life in the Western Territories for the Atlantic Monthly, a prestigious assignment that was supposed to establish her reputation as a serious journalist. Her editor had warned her it would be difficult. He had not mentioned it might be fatal. The sun beat down mercilessly. Within an hour, her dress was soaked through with sweat. The landscape seemed to shimmer and dance in the heat. Olivia had read about mirages in her research, but experiencing one was entirely different. Several times she thought she saw water in the distance, only to have it dissolve as she approached. She rationed the water carefully, taking small sips every half hour. By the time the sun began its descent toward the western horizon, painting the Badlands in shades of orange and purple, Olivia was stumbling more than walking. Her lips were cracked and bleeding. Her feet, in their impractical leather boots, had developed painful blisters. She had seen no sign of the ranch the driver mentioned, no sign of any human presence whatsoever. When the horse appeared on the ridge above her, Olivia thought at first it was another mirage. But the rider dismounted and started down the slope toward her, and she could see the dust his boots kicked up was real. She tried to call out, but her throat was too dry. Instead, she simply stood swaying in place as he approached. He was tall and lean, wearing dusty trail clothes and a wide-brimmed hat that shadowed his face. A rifle was slung across his back and a pistol hung at his hip. When he got close enough for her to see his features clearly, Olivia was struck by how young he was, perhaps 26 or 27, with sun-bronzed skin and eyes the color of storm clouds. "Madam," he said, his voice rough but not unkind, "you look like you have had better days." "The stage overturned," Olivia managed to croak. "The driver is injured, 20 miles southwest." He studied her for a moment, taking in her torn dress and sunburned face, then uncapped his own canteen and handed it to her. "Drink slow. You will make yourself sick otherwise." The water was the most delicious thing Olivia had ever tasted. She forced herself to follow his instruction, taking small sips despite wanting to drain the entire container. When she finally lowered the canteen, the man was watching her with an expression she could not quite read. "I am Warren Jenkins," he said. "I have a camp about 2 miles from here. Can you walk that far, or do you need to ride?" "I can walk," Olivia said, though she was not entirely certain this was true. "I am Olivia Vaughn from Boston, long way from home," Warren observed. He took his horse's reins and started walking, clearly expecting her to follow. "What brings a Boston lady to the Nebraska Badlands?" "I am a journalist," Olivia said, stumbling after him. "I came to write about the Western Territories." "Well, you will have quite a story now." They walked in silence for a while. Olivia concentrated on putting one foot in front of the other, determined not to ask to ride his horse. Warren's camp, when they reached it, consisted of a small fire ring, bedroll, and saddlebags arranged in the lee of a large boulder. It was not much, but after hours in the open sun, the shade felt like a blessing. Warren helped her sit down, then set about building up the fire. "There is a ranch about 5 miles east," he said without looking at her. "The McAllister place. I can take you there in the morning, and we can send someone for the stage driver." "Why not tonight?" Olivia asked. "Because it is getting dark, and this country is dangerous enough in daylight." He glanced at her. "Besides, you look like you are about to fall over. You need rest and food." Olivia wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. Her entire body ached, and now that she had stopped moving, exhaustion was crashing over her in waves. She watched Warren work, noting the efficiency of his movements as he prepared coffee and began heating beans in a small pan. Everything about him suggested competence and self-sufficiency. "What do you do out here?" she asked. "Are you a rancher?" "Sometimes," Warren said. "I guide hunting parties, track down lost cattle, do whatever work needs doing. Been moving around since I was 18. Never found much reason to settle in one place." "That sounds lonely," he shrugged. "I like my own company." Warren handed her a tin plate of beans and hardtack, along with a cup of coffee so strong it made her eyes water. Olivia ate ravenously, too hungry to care about table manners. The food was simple but filling, and she felt strength beginning to return to her limbs. As darkness fell completely, the temperature dropped sharply. Olivia had not expected the desert to be cold at night. She hugged her arms around herself, shivering in her thin dress. Warren disappeared for a moment and returned with a blanket, which he draped around her shoulders without comment. "Thank you," Olivia said, "for everything. I do not know what would have happened if you had not found me." "Nothing good," Warren said bluntly. He sat down across the fire from her, the flames casting shadows across his angular features. "What made you want to come out here? Boston has plenty of stories." "Boston has stories everyone has already read 100 times," Olivia said. "I wanted to write about something new, something real. The Wild West is changing so quickly. In another 20 years it might not exist at all. I wanted to capture it before it disappears." Warren was quiet for a moment, staring into the fire. "The Wild West," he said finally. "That is what you Easterners call it anyway. To those of us who live here, it is just home." "Then tell me about it," Olivia said, leaning forward despite her exhaustion. "Tell me what it is really like." Right now, right now you should sleep. We have a long ride tomorrow." He was right, of course, but Olivia found herself reluctant to end the conversation. There was something about Warren Jenkins that intrigued her, a quality of quiet strength that seemed to belong entirely to this harsh landscape. But her body had other ideas. Even as she tried to think of another question, her eyelids were growing heavy. Warren spread out her blanket near the fire and arranged his own bedroll on the opposite side. "Sleep," he said. "I will keep watch." Olivia wanted to protest that he needed rest too, but she was already drifting off, the day's ordeal finally catching up with her. Her last conscious thought was that she felt safer than she had any right to, alone in the wilderness with a man she had just met. She woke several times during the night, each time seeing Warren's silhouette against the stars, always alert, always watchful. Once, she heard the distant howl of a coyote and saw him rest his hand on his rifle, but nothing came close to their camp. The fire burned low but never went out. When dawn broke across the Badlands, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Olivia opened her eyes to find Warren already up, saddling his horse. He glanced over when he heard her stirring. "Morning," he said. "There is coffee if you want it." Olivia sat up slowly, every muscle in her body protesting. She felt like she had been trampled by a herd of cattle, but the coffee helped, and so did the piece of jerky Warren handed her for breakfast. She did her best to tidy her appearance, pinning up her hair and brushing the worst of the dust from her dress, though she knew she must still look bedraggled. Warren watched these preparations with what might have been amusement. "The McAllisters will not care what you look like," he said. "They are good people. They will help." He helped her mount his horse, then swung up behind her. Olivia tried not to think about how close they were sitting, about the feel of his arm around her waist to steady her. She told herself it was purely practical, nothing more. The ride to the McAllister ranch took just over an hour. The homestead appeared gradually on the horizon, a main house, and several outbuildings clustered around a well. Chickens scattered as they approached, and a large yellow dog came bounding out to greet them, barking enthusiastically. A woman emerged from the house, wiping her hands on her apron. She was perhaps 40, with graying hair and a kind, weathered face. "Warren Jenkins," she called. "What brings you out this way?" "Found this lady wandering in the Badlands yesterday evening," Warren said, dismounting and then helping Olivia down. "The Valentine stage overturned about 20 miles southwest. The driver is injured." The woman's expression turned serious. "Thomas," she called toward the barn. A man appeared, tall and broad-shouldered. "The Valentine stage is down. Driver hurt. Take the wagon and go find him." Thomas nodded and disappeared back into the barn without needing further instruction. The woman turned to Olivia, her expression softening. "You poor dear. Come inside." "I am Mary McAllister. Let me get you cleaned up and fed properly." Olivia glanced at Warren, suddenly reluctant to leave him. "Thank you," she said, "for saving my life." "Just happened to be in the right place," Warren said, but his eyes held hers for a moment longer than necessary. "Take care of yourself, Miss Vaughn." "Wait," Olivia said as he started to turn away. "Will I see you again?" Warren paused. "This is a big territory," he said. "But it is not that big. I imagine our paths will cross." Then he was gone, mounting his horse and riding back toward the open country. Olivia watched until he disappeared from view, feeling an unexpected sense of loss. Mary McAllister took her gently by the arm. "Come on, dear. Let us get you inside. You can tell me all about it." The interior of the ranch house was simple but comfortable, filled with handmade furniture and the smell of baking bread. Mary led Olivia to a bedroom and provided fresh water for washing, along with a clean dress that was a bit too large but infinitely better than her torn traveling clothes. "How long have you known Warren?" Olivia asked as Mary helped her brush the tangles from her hair. "Oh, 5 or 6 years now," Mary said. "He drifts through every few months, does odd jobs, never stays long. He is a good man, though, honest, you can trust him. He seems very solitary." "He is," Mary agreed. "I've heard he had some trouble back east years ago, but he never speaks of it. Some men are just meant to wander, I suppose." Over the next few hours, Olivia learned that Thomas had found the stage driver and brought him back to the ranch. The man's leg was badly broken, but he would recover. The stage itself would need significant repairs. A rider had been sent to Valentine to notify the stage company. "You are welcome to stay here until the next stage comes through," Mary offered. "It should be in 3 days." But Olivia found herself restless. She wandered the ranch, making notes in the journal she had managed to salvage from the wreck. She interviewed Mary about life on a Nebraska homestead, about the challenges and rewards of building something permanent in this unforgiving land. The information was valuable, exactly the kind of detail her readers would want, but Olivia's thoughts kept drifting back to Warren Jenkins. On the second day, she was sitting on the porch in the early evening when she saw a rider approaching. Her heart jumped before she could tell herself not to be ridiculous, but it was indeed Warren, returning as unexpectedly as he had left. He dismounted and walked up to the porch, removing his hat. "Miss Vaughn," he said, "I heard the driver made it back safe. Thought I would check that you were doing all right." "I am fine," Olivia said, standing quickly. "Thanks to you, good." Warren shifted his weight, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. "I also thought if you are still interested in writing about the West, I could show you some things. The real Badlands, not just the homesteads, if you want." Olivia felt a surge of excitement that had nothing to do with journalism. "I would like that very much." Mary appeared in the doorway. "Warren Jenkins, are you planning to drag this poor girl back out into the wilderness? She just survived one disaster." "I will keep her safe," Warren said quietly. "You have my word." Mary looked between them, and something in her expression suggested she understood more than Olivia had said. "Well, I suppose she came out here for adventure. Just make sure she gets back in time for the next stage." Olivia packed quickly, bringing only what she could carry in a small pack: notebooks, pencils, a change of clothes, and the practical split riding skirt Mary lent her. Warren had a second horse waiting, a gentle mare named Daisy. "Can you ride?" Warren asked. "I took lessons in Boston," Olivia said, which turned out to be very different from actually riding across open country. But she managed to mount without embarrassing herself, and Daisy seemed patient with her inexperience. They rode out as the sun was setting, heading deeper into the Badlands. Warren led them to a canyon where the rock formations had been carved by wind and water into fantastic shapes. They made camp beside a narrow creek, one of the few water sources in the area. "This is beautiful," Olivia breathed, looking around at the towering red cliffs catching the last light. "This is my favorite place in Nebraska," Warren admitted. "Maybe in the whole world. Not many people know about it." They prepared dinner together, an easy collaboration that felt natural despite how little time they had spent together. Warren showed her how to build a fire that would not smoke too much, how to tell which plants were safe to eat and which to avoid. As they ate, Olivia asked him questions about his life, about the places he had been and the things he had seen. Warren was not naturally talkative, but she had learned to be patient, to wait for the answers rather than filling every silence with chatter. "I grew up in Philadelphia," he said eventually. "My father wanted me to be a lawyer like him, had my whole life planned out, but I never could stand being confined to offices and city streets. When I was 18, I had a falling out with my family and headed west. Been out here ever since." "Do you ever regret it?" Olivia asked. "Leaving? No, the way I left, maybe." Warren stared into the fire. "I said things I should not have said, burned bridges I might have crossed back over someday, but I was young and angry and sure I knew everything." "Have you considered going back?" "Making amends. My father died 3 years ago," Warren said quietly. "I found out 6 months after it happened, so some bridges stay burned whether you want them to or not." Olivia felt a wave of sympathy. "I am sorry. It is what it is." Warren looked up at her, his expression difficult to read in the firelight. "What about you? What did your family think about you coming out here alone?" "My father thinks I am wasting my education," Olivia said. "My mother thinks I should be focused on finding a husband." But I wanted to do something that mattered, something more than attending parties and making polite conversation. "Writing matters," Warren said. "Stories matter. They are how we remember who we are." The comment surprised her with its insight. "That is exactly how I feel," she said. "I want to capture this time, this place, before it is gone. In 50 years, people will read about the Wild West and think they know what it was like, but they will only know the legends, not the truth." "And what is the truth?" Warren asked. "I am still figuring that out," Olivia admitted. "But I think it is more complicated than the stories make it seem. Not just outlaws and shootouts, but also people like Mary and Thomas, building lives and raising families in difficult circumstances. And people like you, who do not quite fit into either category." Warren was quiet for a long moment. "You see a lot for someone who just got here," he said finally. That night, Olivia lay in her bedroll looking up at more stars than she had ever imagined existed. Warren was on watch again, though what he was watching for, she was not entirely sure. Out here, the dangers were more subtle than bandits or wild animals. It was the land itself that could kill you if you did not respect it. "Warren," she said quietly. "Yeah, thank you for bringing me here, for sharing this with me." "You are welcome, Olivia." It was the first time he had used her given name, and the sound of it in his rough voice sent an unexpected warmth through her chest. The next day, Warren took her deeper into the Badlands, showing her hidden canyons and ancient rock paintings left by people who had lived here long before white settlers arrived. He taught her to read the land, to see the subtle signs that indicated water or shelter or danger. Olivia filled her notebooks with observations and sketches, but she found herself watching Warren as much as the landscape. There was something magnetic about the way he moved through this country, completely at ease in an environment that still intimidated her. She noticed how he always seemed to know where they were, how his eyes constantly scanned the horizon, how he could identify animal tracks at a glance. This was a man who belonged to the wilderness in a way she was only beginning to understand. They talked more easily now. Warren told her stories about his years of wandering, about dangerous river crossings and encounters with bears, about terrible storms and beautiful sunrises. Olivia shared her own stories about growing up in Boston, about her education at a women's college where she had been one of the few students more interested in journalism than marriage prospects. "I admire that," Warren said as they rode side by side through a valley carpeted with wildflowers. "Takes courage to go against what everyone expects of you." "You did the same thing," Olivia pointed out, "maybe, but it feels different for a woman, more difficult." "Sometimes," Olivia agreed. "But I would rather have a difficult life that is mine than an easy one that belongs to someone else's expectations." Warren looked at her with something that might have been respect or admiration, or something else entirely. "You are not what I expected when I found you wandering half dead in the desert." "What did you expect?" "Someone who would cry more," he said, and despite herself, Olivia laughed. That afternoon, they stopped at a shallow stream to water the horses and refill their canteens. Olivia knelt at the water's edge, splashing the cool liquid on her face and neck. When she looked up, Warren was watching her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "What?" she asked. "Nothing," he said, looking away quickly. "We should keep moving. I want to reach Chimney Bluff before dark." Chimney Bluff turned out to be a massive rock formation that rose from the Badlands like a cathedral spire. Warren led them to a sheltered spot at its base, where water seeped from the rock face into a clear pool. "This is incredible," Olivia said, tilting her head back to look up at the towering stone. "How did you find all these places?" "Time," Warren said. "Years of exploring. Some of them I am probably the only white man who knows they exist. The Lakota and Pawnee have been coming to these places for centuries, of course. You know many of the native tribes. Some. I have traded with them, hunted with them. They are dealing with their own struggles right now, being pushed onto smaller and smaller reservations. It is not right, but I am just one man. I cannot change government policy." "But you can tell their stories," Olivia said, "or I can if you introduce me." Warren looked thoughtful. "Maybe. There is a Lakota camp about 2 days north of here. The leader, Red Hawk, he speaks English. He might be willing to talk to you if I vouch for you. Would you?" "I am starting to think I would do quite a few things for you, Olivia Vaughn," Warren said quietly. The admission hung in the air between them. Olivia felt her heart beating faster. "Warren." "We should make camp," he said, turning away before she could finish whatever she had been about to say. "It will be dark soon." That night felt different. The easy companionship of the previous days had developed an undercurrent of tension, a awareness of proximity that had not been there before. They moved around each other carefully as they prepared dinner, not quite meeting each other's eyes. After they ate, Olivia took out her notebook and began writing by firelight. Warren cleaned and checked his rifle, a task that seemed more like something to do with his hands than actual maintenance. Finally, Olivia set down her pencil. "Can I ask you something personal?" she said. Warren looked up warily. "I suppose. Why are you really out here? I do not mean why you left Philadelphia. I mean why you keep moving, why you never settle down. Mary said you have been drifting for years." Warren was silent for so long that Olivia thought he might not answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was low. "I guess I never found a reason to stop. Every place I have been, every job I have taken, it has felt temporary, like I was waiting for something, though I could not have told you what. And now I am not so sure I want to keep moving," Warren said, and the way he looked at her left no doubt what had changed. Olivia felt something shift in her chest, a recognition of feelings she had been trying to ignore. "I have to go back to Boston eventually," she said. "I have commitments, articles to write, a career, I know. But that does not have to be soon. I could stay out here a while longer, keep learning about this place." "And about me?" Warren asked. "Yes," Olivia said honestly, "and about you." Warren stood up and moved around the fire to sit beside her. Up close, she could see the flecks of blue in his gray eyes, the small scar on his jaw, the way his hair curled slightly at his collar. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "I am not good at this," he said. "At talking about feelings, at being close to people. I have spent too many years alone." "Then we will figure it out together," Olivia said. When Warren kissed her, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. His lips were gentle against hers, questioning rather than demanding. Olivia leaned into him, her hand coming up to rest against his chest where she could feel his heart beating as fast as her own. When they finally pulled apart, Warren rested his forehead against hers. "I did not plan this," he said. "Finding you feeling this way." "Neither did I," Olivia admitted, "but I am not sorry it happened." They sat together by the fire until it burned down to embers, talking quietly about everything and nothing. Warren told her more about his years of wandering, about the loneliness he had learned to accept as the price of freedom. Olivia talked about her ambitions, about wanting to be remembered for her writing, about the fear that she might never be taken seriously as a journalist simply because she was a woman. "Anyone who does not take you seriously is a fool," Warren said firmly. "You have more courage than most men I have known. You survived a stage wreck, walked across the desert, and now you are camped in the Badlands like it is the most natural thing in the world." "I am terrified half the time," Olivia confessed. "Courage is not the absence of fear," Warren said. "It is being afraid and doing what you need to do anyway. That is you, Olivia." That night they slept close together, though propriety prevented anything more than that. But Olivia felt safe and warm with Warren's presence nearby, and for the first time since coming west, she slept without waking. The next morning they continued north toward the Lakota camp Warren had mentioned. The landscape gradually changed, the red Badlands giving way to rolling grasslands. They saw herds of pronghorn antelope in the distance and a golden eagle circling overhead. "This country used to be covered with buffalo," Warren said. "Millions of them. But the hide hunters came through in the 70s and killed most of them, changed everything for the tribes who depended on them." "That must have been devastating," Olivia said, making mental notes for her articles. "It was deliberate," Warren said grimly. "Government policy. Kill the buffalo, force the tribes onto reservations. I have seen a lot of injustice out here, Olivia. It is not all romantic adventure." "I know," she said quietly, "or I am beginning to understand. That is important for people back east to know too. The whole truth, not just the exciting parts." They reached the Lakota camp late in the afternoon. It was smaller than Olivia had expected, perhaps 20 lodges arranged in a circle. Children ran and played while women worked on various tasks. Men sat in small groups, talking quietly. A tall man with long gray streaked hair approached as they dismounted. His face was deeply lined, and he wore traditional clothing decorated with intricate beadwork. He and Warren clasped forearms in greeting. "Red Hawk," Warren said. "It is good to see you. And you, Warren Jenkins, you bring a visitor." Red Hawk's English was perfect, with barely a trace of accent. "This is Olivia Vaughn. She is a writer from Boston, come to learn about the West. I hoped you might be willing to speak with her to share your perspective." Red Hawk studied Olivia carefully. She met his gaze steadily, trying to show respect without deference. Finally, he nodded. "We will speak, but first you will eat with us, both of you." They were welcomed into the camp and seated at a cooking fire where several women were preparing food. Warren seemed completely at ease, speaking a mixture of English and Lakota phrases Olivia did not understand. She watched and listened, trying to absorb everything. Over the next several hours, Red Hawk spoke to her about his people's history, about their relationship with the land, about the changes forced upon them by the reservation system. His words were measured and thoughtful, sometimes angry but never bitter. Olivia wrote furiously in her notebook, trying to capture not just the facts but the emotion behind them. "Your government makes promises and breaks them," Red Hawk said. "They sign treaties and ignore them. They see this land and think only of what they can take from it, not how to live in harmony with it. My people are fewer each year. Our children are taken to schools where they are taught to forget their language, their traditions. They are told to become like white people, but they will never truly be accepted as white, so they belong nowhere." "I am sorry," Olivia said quietly. "I know those words are not enough, but I am sorry." "Your sorrow does not change anything," Red Hawk said, but his tone was not unkind. "What matters is what you do with the knowledge you gain here. Will you write the truth, even when it is uncomfortable for your readers? Yes, Olivia said firmly. I will write the truth. That is why I came. Red Hawk nodded. Then you are welcome here. Stay as long as you wish. Learn what you can. They remained in the Lakota camp for 2 days. Olivia interviewed several people, learning about traditional ways of life and how those traditions were struggling to survive. She was struck by the generosity and dignity of people who had every reason to be hostile to white visitors. Warren spent much of the time with the men, hunting and trading stories. But in the evenings, he and Olivia would walk together at the edge of the camp, talking about what she had learned. This has to be part of your story, Warren said one evening as they watched the sun set. The real West is not just cowboys and settlers. It is also the people who were here first, who are being displaced by all this expansion. I know, Olivia said. I just hope my editor will publish it. This is not what readers expect from Wild West stories. Then maybe it is time to change their expectations. On their last evening in the camp, Red Hawk invited them to sit with him by his fire. You have been a respectful guest, Olivia Vaughn, he said. I hope you will remember us when you write your words. I will, Olivia promised. Thank you for your trust. Warren vouched for you, Red Hawk said. That means something. He is a man who understands this land, who does not try to conquer it. There are not many like him. He looked at Warren with something that might have been affection. You have been alone too long, my friend. It is good to see you with someone who values what you are. Warren looked uncomfortable with the observation, but he did not deny it. The next morning, they said their goodbyes and headed back south. Olivia's notebooks were filled with stories and observations that she knew would take months to fully process and write. But she also knew she had gathered material unlike anything her Boston readers had seen before. Where to now? Warren asked as they rode across the grasslands. I should probably get back to the McAllister Ranch, Olivia said reluctantly. The next stage will be coming through soon. And then back to Boston, eventually. Olivia paused, but not right away. I could extend my trip, see more of Nebraska. If I had a guide, Warren smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his usually serious face. I might know someone who would be willing to help with that. They took a longer route back to the ranch, stopping at a hot spring Warren knew about where they could bathe and wash their dusty clothes. The spring was in a secluded canyon, sheltered by high rock walls. I will set up camp downstream, Warren said, pointedly not looking at Olivia. Give you some privacy. After days on the trail, the hot water felt like heaven. Olivia soaked until her skin was pink and wrinkled, washing away layers of dust and sweat. When she emerged, she found Warren had built a fire and was cooking what looked like rabbit. Where did you get that? She asked, sitting down beside him in her clean dress. Snared it while you were bathing. Figured we could use a proper meal. They ate companionably, passing a canteen of water back and forth. The sun was setting, painting the canyon walls in shades of orange and pink. Olivia found herself thinking that she had never been happier, which was absurd considering the primitive conditions and constant uncertainty. But there was something about this life, about being out in the open with nothing but what you could carry, that felt more real than anything she had experienced in Boston. What are you thinking? Warren asked. That I do not want to go back, Olivia admitted. To Boston, to my old life. I know I have to eventually, but the thought of leaving all this, leaving you. She trailed off, suddenly shy. Warren set down his plate and moved closer. Then do not go back, he said. Or at least not permanently. Write your articles, fulfill your commitments, but come back. To Nebraska, to me. It is not that simple, Olivia said. I have a life there, responsibilities. And what about what you want? Warren asked. What about building a life that makes you happy rather than one that meets other people's expectations? Is that what you would want me coming back?" "Yes," Warren said simply. "I know I have nothing to offer compared to what you could have back east. I am a drifter with no permanent home, no prospects. But I have fallen in love with you, Olivia, and I think you might feel the same way about me." Olivia's breath caught. Hearing him say it out loud made it real in a way it had not been before. "I do," she whispered. "I have fallen in love with you too. I did not mean to, did not plan for it, but I have." Warren kissed her then, deeper and more urgent than before. Olivia responded with equal passion, her hands tangling in his hair. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Warren pressed his forehead to hers. "I want you," he said roughly. "But not like this, not without commitment. You deserve better than that." "What are you saying?" Olivia asked. "I am saying marry me," Warren said. "I know it is fast, I know it is crazy, but I have never been more certain of anything. Stay with me, build a life with me out here. We can make it work somehow." Olivia felt tears prickling her eyes. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I will marry you." They held each other as the stars came out overhead, making plans in whispers. Warren suggested they could homestead, claim land under the government program, and build a ranch. Olivia could write while they built their life together, documenting the experience for her readers. "I will need to go back to Boston first," Olivia said, "to settle my affairs, collect my things, explain to my family. But then I will come back, I promise." "I will wait," Warren said, "however long it takes." They returned to the McAllister Ranch 2 days later to find that the next stage had already arrived and departed. Olivia would have to wait another 3 days for the following one. Mary took one look at them and smiled knowingly. "So," she said, "I take it your guide proved satisfactory." "We are getting married," Olivia said, unable to keep the joy from her voice. Mary laughed and embraced her. "I thought something like that might happen. Congratulations to you both. Thomas," she called to her husband, "break out the good whiskey, we have a celebration tonight." The McAllisters threw together an impromptu party, inviting neighbors from surrounding homesteads. It was a small gathering by Boston standards, but filled with genuine warmth and happiness. Olivia was embraced by people she barely knew, all of them excited by the romance and wishing them well. Warren stayed close to her side all evening, looking slightly overwhelmed by the attention but clearly pleased. At one point, Thomas pulled him aside for a conversation Olivia could not hear, but whatever was said made Warren shake the older man's hand gratefully. Late in the evening, Mary sat down beside Olivia on the porch. "You are sure about this?" she asked gently. "Life out here is hard, especially for women used to cities and culture." "I am sure," Olivia said. "I love him, Mary. And I think I could love this life too, the challenge of it, the authenticity." "Then you have my blessing and my help," Mary said. "When you come back from Boston, you come stay with us while you and Warren get established. We will teach you everything you need to know about running a homestead." The 3 days before the stage arrived passed too quickly. Warren and Olivia spent every possible moment together, riding out to his favorite spots and making more plans. They would marry as soon as she returned, Warren said. No need for a big ceremony, just something simple with friends as witnesses. When the stage finally arrived, Olivia found herself crying despite her best efforts to stay composed. Warren held her tightly. "It is just a few months," he said. "You will be back before you know it." "Promise me you will be here," Olivia said. "Promise you will not wander off somewhere and I will never find you again." "I promise," Warren said firmly. "I will be right here or at the McAllisters. I will write you every week so you know where I am. You have my word, Olivia." He kissed her one last time, a kiss that held all the promise of their future together. Then, Olivia climbed into the stage, and it pulled away, carrying her back toward civilization. The journey back to Boston took 2 weeks. Olivia spent the time writing furiously, pouring out articles about her experiences while they were still fresh in her mind. She wrote about the harsh beauty of the Badlands, about homesteaders like the McAllisters carving lives from difficult land. She wrote about Red Hawk and his people, about injustices and broken promises. And she wrote about Warren, about the men who lived between civilization and wilderness, belonging fully to neither. Boston felt strange and stifling after the open country. The buildings seemed to press in on her, the crowds of people overwhelming. Her mother took one look at her son's bronzed face and calloused hands and nearly fainted. "Olivia, what has happened to you?" "I have been living, Mother," Olivia said. "Really living, and I have something to tell you." The conversation with her parents did not go well. Her father was outraged at the idea of her marrying a drifter and homesteading in Nebraska. Her mother wept and pleaded. They insisted she had been foolish, impulsive, that she was throwing away her future. But Olivia stood firm. "I am 23 years old," she said. "Old enough to make my own decisions. I love Warren and I am going to marry him. I hope you can accept that and give us your blessing, but either way, I am going." Her editor at the Atlantic Monthly was more supportive, particularly when he read her articles. "This is extraordinary work, Olivia," he said. "Exactly the kind of authentic reporting we were hoping for. We will publish the entire series. And if you continue writing from Nebraska, sending us regular dispatches about frontier life, we would be very interested in that as well." That news helped mollify her parents slightly, though they remained deeply unhappy about her decision. Olivia spent the next 3 months settling her affairs, selling most of her possessions, and packing what she would need for her new life. She bought practical clothes, cookware, books, and tools that would be useful on a homestead. True to his word, Warren wrote every week. His letters were not flowery or poetic, but they were honest and detailed. He described his days helping Thomas prepare land for a new barn, evenings spent planning their future home. He had filed for a homestead claim on land about 10 miles from the McAllisters, he wrote. It had good water and decent soil. They could make something there. Olivia treasured every letter, reading them until the paper grew soft and worn. She wrote back just as often, telling him about her progress wrapping up her Boston life, about the success of her articles, about how much she missed him. Finally, in late October, she boarded a train heading west. Her parents came to see her off, still disapproving but at least speaking to her. Her mother pressed a small bag of gold coins into her hand. "For emergencies," she said. "Please write to us, let us know you are safe." "I will," Olivia promised, embracing them both. "I love you, and I will be happy, you will see." The train journey took days, clicking rhythmically across the miles. Olivia felt her excitement building with every passing hour. When they finally reached the station closest to Valentine, she was almost vibrating with anticipation. Warren was waiting on the platform, looking exactly as she remembered him. The moment she stepped off the train, she dropped her bags and ran to him. He caught her in his arms, lifting her off her feet and spinning her around. "You came back," he said, as if he had doubted despite everything. "Of course I came back," Olivia said, laughing and crying at the same time. "Did you really think I would not?" "No," Warren admitted, "but I am still glad to see proof." They were married 2 days later by a circuit preacher who happened to be passing through the area. The ceremony was held at the McAllister Ranch, with Mary and Thomas serving as witnesses along with a dozen other neighbors. Olivia wore a simple blue dress she had brought from Boston. Warren had gotten a haircut and shaved, looking uncomfortable in clean clothes without trail dust. When the preacher asked if they took each other as husband and wife, they both said yes without hesitation. The kiss that sealed their marriage was tender and full of promise. The celebration afterward was lively, with music and dancing and more food than seemed possible given the remote location. Olivia danced with Warren, with Thomas, with several other men whose names she was still learning. She felt accepted here in a way she had never quite felt in Boston's strict social circles. As evening fell, Warren helped her into a wagon loaded with supplies and drove them to their new land. The homestead was beautiful in the autumn light, a broad valley sheltered by low hills. There was a creek running through it and stands of cottonwood trees. "It is not much yet," Warren said, gesturing to the small cabin he had built. "Just one room, but we can add on as we need to." The cabin was rough but solid, with a stone fireplace and real glass windows. Warren had made simple furniture, a table, chairs, a bed frame. It was spare, but it was theirs. That night, as man and wife, they consummated their marriage with a tenderness that took Olivia's breath away. Warren was patient and careful, making sure she felt safe and cherished. Afterward, they lay together in the narrow bed, talking about their plans for the homestead. "We will need to plant crops in the spring," Warren said. "Wheat, corn, vegetables. I have been talking to Thomas about what grows best here, and we can raise cattle, maybe some pigs and chickens." "I can keep writing," Olivia said. "Send articles back east. That will bring in some money while we get established." "We will make it work," Warren said with quiet confidence. Together. The first months of their marriage were a time of intense labor and adjustment. Olivia learned skills she had never imagined needing: how to milk a cow, how to make bread from scratch, how to preserve vegetables for winter. Her hands, which had only known pen and paper, became calloused from work. But she found satisfaction in the physical labor, in seeing tangible results from her efforts. Warren proved to be not just a capable provider but a devoted husband. He was patient with her mistakes, teaching her what she needed to know without making her feel incompetent. At night, exhausted from the day's work, they would lie together and talk about everything and nothing. Olivia continued writing, but now her articles had a different perspective. She wrote about the reality of homesteading, about the challenges and small triumphs of daily life on the frontier. Her work was popular with readers back east, who were fascinated by this authentic glimpse into Western life. Winter came early and hard that year. Olivia experienced her first Nebraska blizzard in December, a terrifying storm that lasted 3 days and left them snowed in completely. She and Warren huddled by the fire, telling stories and making plans for the spring. "I want to expand the cabin before next winter," Warren said. "Add another room at least, maybe 2. We will need more space if we are going to have children." "Children," Olivia repeated, her heart skipping. "Eventually," Warren said, studying her face. "If you want them, I know you have your writing career." "I want them," Olivia said. "I want a family with you. I can write and be a mother. Women have been doing both since the beginning of time." Spring brought new life to the valley. Olivia helped Warren plant their first crops, learning to work the plow and scatter seeds. They acquired chickens and a milk cow from the McAllisters. Slowly, the homestead began to feel like a real farm. In May, Olivia realized she was pregnant. She told Warren one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset. He was silent for a long moment, then pulled her into his arms. "I am going to be a father," he said, wonder in his voice. "You are going to be an excellent father," Olivia assured him. The pregnancy was not easy. Olivia suffered from severe morning sickness for the first few months, and found the physical demands of farm work increasingly difficult as her belly grew. But Mary McAllister was a godsend, coming over regularly to help and offering advice based on her own experiences. Warren became even more protective, trying to prevent Olivia from doing any heavy work. They argued about it more than once. "I am pregnant, not fragile," Olivia insisted. "I can still help with the chores." "I know," Warren said, "but let me take care of you, please." In the end, they found a compromise. Olivia focused on tasks that did not require heavy lifting, and Warren took on more of the physical labor. She used the extra time to write, producing a series of articles about pregnancy and childbirth on the frontier that proved enormously popular with her readers. Their son was born in January of 1885, during a cold snap that left ice on the inside of the windows. The birth was long and difficult, attended by Mary and a midwife from a neighboring homestead. Olivia had never experienced such pain, but when they finally placed the baby in her arms, she forgot all of it. "He is perfect," she breathed, studying the tiny scrunched face. Warren sat beside her on the bed, looking awed and terrified in equal measure. What should we name him? They had discussed names for months without reaching a conclusion. Now, looking at their son, Olivia knew. "Matthew," she said. "Matthew Jenkins." "Matthew," Warren repeated softly, reaching out to touch one tiny hand. "Hello, Matthew. Welcome to the world." The first months with a baby were exhausting and wonderful in equal measure. Olivia had read books about infant care, but nothing had prepared her for the reality. Matthew cried frequently and slept in short bursts. Olivia was constantly tired, her writing pushed to the side as she focused on keeping their son fed and comfortable. Warren was remarkably patient, taking over household tasks so Olivia could rest when the baby slept. He also proved to have a talent for soothing Matthew when nothing else worked, walking the floor with him at all hours. "You are a natural," Olivia said one night, watching Warren gently rock their son. "I am terrified most of the time," Warren admitted. "He is so small, so vulnerable." "What if I make a mistake?" "Then we will figure it out together," Olivia said. "Just like everything else." As Matthew grew, the homestead flourished. Their first harvest was modest but successful. Warren traded with neighbors and in Valentine, slowly building up their livestock and equipment. Olivia resumed writing, though at a reduced pace, documenting their family's growth alongside frontier life. She wrote about watching Warren teach Matthew to walk, about the day their son said his first word. She wrote about the challenges of raising a child far from doctors and modern conveniences, about relying on community and ingenuity. Her readers loved it, and the steady income from her articles helped supplement what they made from farming. By the time Matthew was 2, the cabin had been expanded to include 2 additional rooms and a proper kitchen. The farm had several milk cows, a growing herd of cattle, pigs, chickens, and even a few sheep. It was not a large operation compared to some, but it was theirs, built with their own hands and efforts. Olivia discovered she was pregnant again in the spring of 1887. This time, knowing what to expect, she was less anxious but no less exhausted. Warren had become more confident as a father and husband, taking challenges in stride. Their daughter was born in December, an easier birth than Matthew's had been. They named her Sarah, after Warren's mother. She was a calm baby, much easier than her brother had been, with dark hair like Olivia's and her father's gray eyes. Matthew, now nearly 3, was fascinated by his baby sister. He wanted to help with everything, from changing diapers to singing her lullabies. Olivia's heart swelled watching Warren with their children, seeing the gentle patience he showed them. Life settled into a rhythm of seasons and growth. The farm became more prosperous each year. Olivia's writing evolved, documenting not just frontier life, but the larger changes sweeping through the West. The railroad brought more settlers. Towns grew into small cities. The wild country Warren had shown her that first summer was slowly being tamed. "Sometimes I miss it," Warren admitted one evening as they sat on their porch watching their children play in the yard. Matthew was 5 now, Sarah 3. "The way it used to be, the freedom of just wandering wherever I wanted. Do you regret staying?" Olivia asked quietly, though the question scared her. "No," Warren said immediately, taking her hand. "Not for a second. You and the children, this life we have built, it is everything I did not know I wanted, but I can still miss the old days sometimes." "I understand," Olivia said. "I miss parts of Boston occasionally. The theaters, the bookstores, the intellectual conversations. But I would not trade this for anything." In 1890, Olivia published her first book, a collection of her frontier articles along with new material about homesteading and family life. It was well received, praised for its honest depiction of Western life beyond the romantic myths. The book brought in enough money for them to make significant improvements to the farm, including a proper barn and a windmill for water. Warren had become a respected member of the community, known for his skill with horses and his willingness to help neighbors in need. He occasionally still took guiding jobs, though now he never went for more than a few days at a time. He always came home to his family. Their third child, a son they named Thomas after Thomas McAllister, was born in 1891. By then, Valentine had grown into a proper town with a school, church, and even a small newspaper. Matthew started attending school, riding the 3 miles each way on his pony. Olivia sometimes thought about the terrified woman who had stumbled through the Badlands 7 years earlier, lost and sunburned and certain she was going to die. That woman had been searching for a story worth telling. She had found so much more. One evening, as they prepared for bed, Warren asked her about her writing. "You have been quiet about it lately," he observed. "Are you working on something new?" "I have been thinking," Olivia said slowly, "about writing a different kind of book. A memoir about how I came west and everything that happened after, about finding you, building this life. Do you think anyone would want to read that?" Warren smiled. "I think people would be very interested in that story, but there is one part I am particularly curious about." "What part?" "The part where you fell in love with a drifter and decided to give up everything for a life in Nebraska." Olivia moved into his arms, resting her head on his chest. "That is the easy part to explain. You saved my life that day in the Badlands, Warren. But more than that, you showed me what life could be. Real and challenging and authentic. You gave me a story worth living, not just writing about. You gave me a reason to stop running," Warren said quietly. "A home, a family, a purpose. Everything I had been looking for without knowing it." "So we saved each other," Olivia said. "I suppose we did." Olivia began writing her memoir that winter, working in the evenings after the children were in bed. She wrote about the stage wreck, about stumbling through the desert, about the moment Warren appeared like something out of a fever dream. She wrote about learning to love the Badlands, about Red Hawk and his people, about the decision to stay. But mostly she wrote about love, about finding it in an unexpected place with an unexpected person, about building a life together against odds and obstacles, about choosing happiness over expectations. She titled it "The Story of My Lifetime," echoing the words she had spoken to Warren years ago during one of their long conversations. He had asked her what kind of story she wanted to tell, and she had said she wanted to find the story of a lifetime. She had found it, but not in the way she had imagined. The memoir was published in 1893 to critical acclaim. Readers loved the romance and adventure, but also the honest depiction of frontier life. Olivia received letters from women all over the country, many of them saying the book had inspired them to pursue their own dreams rather than conforming to expectations. Warren read it in manuscript form and was quiet for a long time after finishing. "Is this really how you see me?" he asked finally. "Like some kind of hero." "You are my hero," Olivia said simply. "You gave me everything I wanted without even knowing what that was." The book's success brought more opportunities. Olivia was invited to give lectures in eastern cities about Western life and women's experiences on the frontier. She made several trips back east over the years, though she was always eager to return home to Nebraska. Their farm continued to grow and prosper. By the turn of the century, they had expanded their land holdings and built a larger house, a proper ranch house with multiple bedrooms and even a room Olivia used as an office for her writing. Matthew, now 15, was already helping manage the cattle operation. Sarah, 13, showed talent for training horses. Thomas, 9, was the family reader, never without a book. In 1902, Olivia and Warren welcomed their fourth and final child, a daughter they named Grace. By then, Olivia was 39 and Warren 42, both of them older parents but no less devoted. Grace was a surprise but a welcome one, doted on by her older siblings. The world was changing rapidly. The wild frontier of Olivia's first years in Nebraska was largely gone, replaced by towns and farms and railroads. But some things remained constant: the harsh beauty of the land, the strength required to thrive here, the importance of community and family. Olivia continued writing throughout her life, producing books and articles that documented the transformation of the West. But her greatest work, she often thought, was the life she and Warren had built together. 4 children raised to be strong and independent. A ranch that supported not just their family but several employees. A partnership built on love and mutual respect. Warren never lost his love for the open country. Even in his 50s and 60s, he would sometimes saddle a horse and ride out into the Badlands for a few days, just to reconnect with that wild part of himself. But he always came home, because home was where Olivia and their family waited. On their 20th wedding anniversary in 1905, Warren took Olivia back to Chimney Bluff, the spot where he had first told her he loved her. It was a difficult ride for both of them now, no longer the young adventurers they had been. But the place was as beautiful as ever, the rock spire rising against an endless blue sky. "You remember what you told me here?" Warren asked as they sat by the water. "Which part?" Olivia said with a smile. "I said many things." "You said I was the story of your lifetime," Warren said. "That you had come west looking for a story worth writing and you had found me." "I remember," Olivia said softly. "And it is still true. You are still the best story, the best adventure, the best decision I ever made." Warren took her hand, his own now weathered and scarred from decades of hard work. 20 years ago, I was a drifter with nothing to offer except my knowledge of this country and a stubborn desire to be free. You could have married someone wealthy, someone important back east. Why did you choose this life? Choose me?" Olivia thought about it carefully, wanting to give him the honest answer he deserved. "Because you saw me," she said finally. "Not as a woman who should conform to certain expectations, but as a person with my own dreams and ambitions. You respected my work, encouraged my writing, helped me become the person I wanted to be. And because I saw you too, the loneliness beneath the independence, the yearning for connection beneath the self-sufficiency. We fit together in a way I did not know was possible." "We did," Warren agreed. "We do." They sat together in silence, watching the sunlight move across the canyon walls. So much had changed since that first desperate summer, but the core of what they had found together remained constant: love, partnership, a shared commitment to building something meaningful. When they finally rode back to the ranch, their children were waiting with a celebration. Matthew and his wife had come from their own homestead 10 miles away, bringing their 2 young children. Sarah, who had married a neighboring rancher's son, was there with her husband. Thomas, now studying law at university in Omaha, had come home for the occasion. Grace, just 3 years old, ran to greet them with squeals of delight. The party lasted into the evening, filled with music and laughter and storytelling. Olivia looked around at the life she and Warren had created and felt profound gratitude. This was her story, her great adventure. Not just the dramatic beginning with the stage wreck and the rescue, but all the years that followed. The daily work of building a life, raising children, supporting each other through challenges and changes. That night, lying in bed beside Warren, Olivia said quietly, "Thank you." "For what?" Warren asked. "For finding me in the Badlands, for bringing me here. For loving me enough to stay when I know part of you still wants to wander." "I found what I was wandering toward," Warren said. "I just did not know it until I saw you stumbling through the desert, determined and terrified and too stubborn to give up. You were my destination, Olivia. You and this life we built together." Olivia kissed him, marveling that after 20 years his touch could still make her heart race. "I love you," she said. "I love you too," Warren replied. "Always have, always will." As the years passed, the ranch continued to thrive under the management of Warren and, increasingly, Matthew. Olivia's writing evolved to focus on history, documenting the changes she had witnessed in the West. She became a sought-after voice on frontier life, consulted by historians and journalists seeking authentic perspectives. Warren's health began to decline in his late 60s, the hard years of physical labor taking their toll. But he remained active, still riding out to check on cattle, still offering advice and guidance to his children and grandchildren. He never complained about the aches and pains, viewing them as simply the cost of a life well lived. In 1920, when Olivia was 57 and Warren 60, they celebrated their 35th anniversary surrounded by 4 children, 10 grandchildren, and a community that had grown up around them. Valentine was now a proper town with automobiles and electric lights. The wild frontier Olivia had written about seemed like ancient history. "You ever wish you could go back?" their daughter Sarah asked Olivia during the party. "To the beginning, when it was all new and exciting." Olivia thought about it, looking across the room to where Warren was showing one of his grandsons how to tie a proper lasso knot. "No," she said finally. "Every stage of our life together has been meaningful." The excitement of those first years was wonderful, but so was watching you children grow, building the ranch, growing older together. "I would not trade any of it." Warren lived to see his 75th birthday in 1935, a remarkable age for a man who had lived such a physically demanding life. By then, he was mostly confined to the house, his body finally worn out from decades of hard work. But his mind remained sharp, and he loved having his grandchildren and great-grandchildren visit, telling them stories about the old days. Olivia rarely left his side during those final years. She would sit with him on the porch, holding his hand and watching the sunset over the land they had claimed together. Sometimes they talked about the past, remembering the adventures and challenges. Other times they sat in comfortable silence, needing no words. "I have had a good life," Warren told her one evening as the light faded. "Better than I deserved, certainly better than I expected." "We both have," Olivia said, squeezing his hand gently. Warren passed away peacefully in his sleep on a spring morning in 1936, with Olivia beside him. The entire community turned out for his funeral, testament to the respect and affection he had earned over the decades. He was buried on a hill overlooking the ranch, with a simple stone that read Warren Jenkins, 1860–1936, beloved husband, father, and friend. Olivia lived another 12 years, continuing to write and spending time with her ever-growing family. She never remarried, content with her memories and the life she had shared with Warren. She published her final book, A Comprehensive History of Nebraska Settlement, at age 80. When she passed away in 1948 at age 85, she was buried beside Warren on that same hilltop. Her stone read, Olivia Vaughn Jenkins, 1863–1948, writer, wife, mother, pioneer. The ranch remained in the family for generations, a testament to what two unlikely people had built together. Olivia's books continued to be read, offering insights into a vanished way of life. But perhaps her greatest legacy was the family she and Warren had created, descendants who carried forward their values of hard work, independence, and devotion to each other. The story of the journalist who came west seeking adventure and found love instead became a family legend, passed down through the generations. Great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren would visit the ranch and walk up to that hilltop, reading the simple stones and marveling at the life those two people had shared. In the end, Olivia had been right all those years ago. Warren Jenkins was the story of her lifetime, an adventure that lasted from that desperate day in the Badlands until her final breath. She had come west searching for stories to write, and she had found the greatest story of all, a life lived fully, with passion and purpose and love. The wild country had tested her, challenged her, and ultimately given her everything she had never known to ask for. And though the frontier vanished and the world changed beyond recognition, the love she and Warren shared remained constant, a bright thread connecting past to present, yesterday to tomorrow, two hearts to one eternal home.